insight development. I've become quite a proficient chair dancer.
I must commend you for your creative uses over the years of all of the different royalty-free stock music and stock sound effects that have populated the Debating Edge
Thank you
curriculum.
for noticing. So I use free images and free sound bites. No copyright issues at all. Okay, listen, as you know, I like collecting my insights in my telephone, and I bring them back and bringing back two of them. One of them I chose just for you because of your profession. Listen, this insight, my wife says I should re-record these, and I think I agree with her because when I'm walking my dog and I'm recording these insights, my voice ends up sounding like, I don't know, a little bit morose. My wife says like a serial killer, but let's listen to this insight and then talk about it on the other side.
At the heart of judging people is one's unwillingness to expand their own horizons and their inability to imagine that others might have different limits.
So judging people, this was something I grappled with when I was your age. It's like, how do you not judge people? How is it that some people are non-judgmental, like Buddhists? I know a few Buddhist monks, and that's one of the key features of Buddhism is that you don't judge, or you work hard to stop judging. Now, what do you think about judging people in general? Is this something that we should aspire to not do? Is this something that brings us down when we do it? What do you think?
I think so, and I think there's a distinction to be made between judging people on a personal level. This person is selfish. This person is a bad person. This person's a good person. This person doesn't work hard enough. Blah blah blah. And judging people on a legal level, because I think this person crashed into my car. No, I think they crashed into my
let's
car.
get to that. Let's get to that in a second. We're just talking about on a personal level right now, right?
Yeah.
Some people say that all judgments are auto-referential. So when you judge somebody, you're kind of recognizing in somebody else the thing that you're also guilty of, but you deny it about yourself, and you're hyper aware about it in the other person. So you can recognize the thing that you hate about yourself.
And it's interesting.
Go ahead.
It's interesting that you say, you talk about your Buddhist friends who aspire not to judge people. I mean, the point that you just made about judgment being self-referential, I mean, that's also in the Bible as well. I think you're right. I think we shouldn't judge people.
So then how do you square that with the job of being a judge in the legal system that you're entering? How is it that a man or a woman can stand there and render their judgment on somebody whose life hangs in the balance?
Well, because I think it's a different kind of judging. I think there's judging someone on a personal level. You're a good person, you're a bad person. And there's judging, did this person violate a law? Because that's objective. There is a law. Let's listen to the facts, let's find out. And if they did violate the law, then the law says what we do to them. You're just following what, as a society, we have through elected officials decided are the laws of the land that people have to follow. And so I think it's a different kind of judgment. And I think that they're not the same.
These elected or appointed officials that are supposed to judge us in the legal terms, aren't they also swayed by their own human nature and their own biases? Like, don't they see themselves in the person on the stand? Aren't they going to, do you see what I mean? Aren't they also vulnerable to the same things we all are?
I'm sure they are to an extent, but I think we have a system that works. We need a system. We can't just, I don't think we can live in a society where there just are no judges. Help. I've been attacked. Oh, well, we don't want to judge the person who attacked you because, we might have biases against them. I don't think that's not a system that could work. That would be anarchy. That would be chaos.
Isn't it more fair than to have kind of a jury system rather than a single judge judging you?
Well, we
Because
do
at
have.
least with the jury, you're kind of weighing 12 people's, I guess, opinions versus just one.
I think there's a lot of sense in that. We do have juries in this country, not as much as in the United States, but we do have them. And I think there's a lot of that's kind of the point of the motivating principle behind having juries is that you get more of a community judgment. It's you're being judged by your peers in the community rather than by the judge from on high as part of the government. So I think
How
there's some
about you
wisdom there.
yourself, Sterling? Do you find that you do find yourself judging people from time to time? Do you catch yourself doing it? Um,
I do, yes, and I try not to. It is hard though. It is hard. I think it does come up naturally, but I think it's something that is good to strive not to do and to try and catch yourself
listen,
when you.
since we do it so readily and easily, but we all agree that we shouldn't do it, does this mean it's part of our nature that we're kind of struggling against? Or why do we descend to a state that kind of against our better judgment? No pun intended.
That's a difficult question. Why does anyone do anything that they know that they shouldn't do? I guess it is a part of it's a natural inclination that we have to take control over, and that we have to maybe that's part of what it is to maybe that's what differentiates us as humans from animals is that we have natural impulses, but we can control them and we can tame them if we put enough effort into them. I mean, I imagine that the frogs, if they judge the other frogs, I don't think that they have the idea that it's not good to judge people and they work on improving themselves. No, I think they just have impulse and they have instinct. But we humans have more than that, and I think we have to take advantage of that.
Use our faculties. Okay, next insight is on magic.
Kids should be encouraged to believe in magic for as long as possible. You have to believe in magic in order for magic to become real. Belief equals reality. And if the mind at a young age isn't conditioned to believe in the unreal or the magical, then it won't find it hard to believe in something that's difficult to believe later on. Therefore, they'll be able to believe something is possible even though it's unproven, there's no evidence, and it's never been seen before. And this is how things are discovered and created. This is how envelopes are broken and glass ceilings are broken.
Okay, my wife is going to kill me when she hears this, and I have
I
to
see
leave.
what you mean about your wife thinking you sounded like a serial killer. It does. There is
All
a.
right. Okay. All right. My point was, this was all inspired by one time I was out in the park next to my house, and my neighbor decided to take it upon himself to tell my kid about, I don't know what he said exactly, but he said, "Don't believe that," and gobbledygook magic. Well, he decided to burst my child's bubble, my young child, telling them magic is not real. I don't know what he was talking about. It was kind of something like along the lines of Santa Claus or the Tooth Fairy. And I thought to myself, that's not right. Because I think as a parent, I want my child to believe in magical things as long as possible. And the reason is because I think if you believe that something is possible, and even when everyone else doesn't, then later on in your life, you're going to be the person who, how do I say this, that can then push the envelope or become innovative and believe that you can do something when against all the odds. And I think that's how we kind of we push forward in this world, and that's it's one of the features of being a person. But if we become cynical and close our minds to magical things, then it kind of just narrows down our options of what we can do later on as grown-ups. What do you think about that?
It's really interesting that this is something about me. I don't actually think that Coach Tamer, is that I, as a little side hobby, am an amateur magician.
No
I'm not sure
way.
if you knew this.
I didn't know that.
And I don't know if this is going to come through in the camera, but I actually thought I could show a little for anyone watching this on
hang on.
YouTube. or whatever after.
All right, let's do
Uh,
it.
I've set up the table. We have here the king of clubs, but if we just rotate it around, we could turn it into into the king
Oh,
of hearts.
awesome.
Um,
Wow.
so um, I do think I like magic. Magic's fun, and I think that it's just that feeling of not knowing how something's done and thinking that something's impossible, but you just saw it, so it has to be possible. It has to be doable. You just can't figure out how it's done. I think that is important, and that wonder is useful, and it does push us to do more and to think, well, if that is possible, but it seems impossible, what else seems impossible but is actually possible if you spend enough time thinking about it? I think it's Carl Sagan who once said that sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic, which
Hmm.
is sort of, I think, the same principle that if you work hard enough and if you advance the technology and if you build a thing, the machine that can do, eventually you can achieve things that seem like they were magic.
Stuff like the Santa Claus. Is it important for kids to believe in Santa Claus? I say yes, because,
I'm not sure about that.
well, do we want kids to think that it's possible that a man is coming through our chimney into our house every Christmas to leave things in our living room? I think perpetuating kind of the myth or the magic of Santa Claus, what I explain to kids, because sometimes in my young kids' classes, certain kids take it upon themselves to kind of dispel the myth of Santa Claus for the other kids. And then the other kids have a look of distress in their eyes, and I have to deal with it. And I always say, look, Santa Claus is real for those who choose to believe. And that's kind of like magic. It's like if you believe in magic, then magic is real. It's one of those subjective reality things. But between you and I, as adults, I say, Santa Claus, the myth, the man coming through the chimney, this magical story is just a symbol or a representation of something that's actually magical. Christmas, the feeling of Christmas, the time of the year when people become generous of spirit and become the better version of themselves, and something really magical takes place. But how do you explain something abstract like that to a child? So you simplify it by personifying, creating the character of Santa Claus. So I think Santa does
It
represent
sounds like the
real
life of
magic.
Pi.
What do you mean?
The idea that you tell the better story you tell the more interesting story to tell the same ultimate message than telling what actually happened. Although that's a little less a little less positive than Christmas in the context of that story. Are you familiar with the Life of Pi, Coach Tamer, former English
Yes,
teacher, surely? Okay,
I
okay.
read it and I
So
watched it. Yeah, yeah.
I think there's I guess that's the negative side